I've been talking about intentions. I really appreciate everyone's openness and honesty always, but we've heard some today about how this was a week with a lot of big news coming out of lots of areas, and that can have an impact on us, just as all the other things in our lives have impact on us. So just a note again about intentions as we come into this New Year energy and try and state I'm asking you to actually do two different things. So one, I'm inviting you to set some kind of a goal for your body. So you'll notice I said goal, not intention. And that's more so, is there a pose that you've been wanting to do that you want to work on over the next 3 to 6 months? Or is there a part of your body that you know has been a little bit troublesome for you and you really want to give extra focus, put extra stretching into it or extra strengthening into it? Maybe you're trying to build up your core, or for me, I've had some Achilles difficulty, and so I really want to make sure I'm doing all additional stretches, for me, probably daily, in order to really stretch out this Achilles for myself. So maybe there's a part of your body or a yoga pose for you that is in that same category, something that you'd like to be able to do or be able to change in your body over the next few months. So that's one thing I'm inviting you to set. Separately from that, the idea of intention is it's more that self-awareness that many of you were sharing today already. It's that taking stock of where am I at these days? Obviously, there is a lot happening in our world. What's happening for me personally, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all aspects of your whole self? How are you? And is there anything that needs to shift there? Any desire or intention for a different feeling, perhaps a different experience? And it does take that level of self-awareness. It's that little bit of reflection of, okay, honestly, how are things going for me? And is this what I want? Or is there something else, an intention that I would like to set to feel a bit differently? So let's close our eyes and reflect on that for a few moments as we start to pay attention to breathing. Taking a breath in and breathing out, maybe just in and out through the nose here to begin. There's so much that comes from breathing. I invite you to really keep your mind turned just to the breath here at the start of class. Notice as you breathe in. Notice if there's a natural pause at the end of the breath in, and then notice as you breathe out. Is there a natural pause there as well? Notice when your mind wanders off to thoughts or feelings or emotions. Notice if you're able to bring your attention back to the breath. Let's do 3 more breaths that way. Focus mindfully on breathing. After those 3 breaths, let go, breathe normally, open your eyes. And we're going to begin standing today, knowing that when we're working with our low backs in particular, especially those of you who have had low back difficulties, you know that sitting is really tough. And so standing is going to be better for those of us who need to encourage some opening in the low back. So let's stand well. Find your feet, place them hip width apart. Pick up those 5 toes and lay them down one at a time. So this is beginning the process of grounding ourselves, right? Taking all this head and thinking and emotional energy and sending it downward so you're actually feeling your foot rooting you to the floor. Do the same thing with your other 5 toes. Lift them and lay them down one at a time. And then notice the 4 corners of each foot. Can you feel your feet touching the ground, the mat, floor underneath you? And keep some of your attention there. Some of your attention just really grounded. Then keep your knees gentle, so a little bit soft, and let your spine start to lengthen and extend up through the crown of the head. Ensure the shoulders are low, gentle. Let's take a couple of breaths here in mountain pose. Feel the breath go right down to the diaphragm. Make the belly move with each of these breaths. Now take the thumb, one hand into the palm of the other. Inhale as you raise your arms up. Leave your shoulders low as you breathe out. Breathe in through the nose here. And all the way, breath out through the mouth. Rub your hands together. Get some good friction between your fingers. And 2 breaths here. In through the nose, all the way out through the mouth. Bring the hands behind the neck, or if that's not right for your body, in front of the neck, it's just as good for 2 breaths. Full extension as you breathe in. And because we're standing, see if you've got room to open your arms out wide, coming down towards your sides. Shake out those arms. Great. Just wiggle the knees a little bit. Keep that softness in the knees. Let's stand tall in mountain pose so that we can lift one ear towards the ceiling. And take 2 big breaths to get lovely neck stretch here. In through the nose and all the way out through the mouth. As you're ready, over to the other side. And 2 big breaths. Let's do each side again at your own pace. 2 breaths per side. Use less effort the second time. Be a little more mindful of the sensations that you are getting from the pose. As you're ready, final side. Once you've returned to center, ready to go side to side. Look at the side wall, back of your neck long. 2 big breaths here. Over to the other side as you're ready. Again, paying attention. What are you noticing about the sensations you get from this position? Come to center. Drop your chin towards your chest. Keep your shoulders at full height though. So we're not rounding through the shoulders at all. Just the chin ends up toward the chest to stretch the back of the neck for 3 breaths. Perhaps you see the breath move the diaphragm. Walk the eyes across the floor, up the opposite wall, just as far as your head and neck want to take you. And then open your mouth and breathe 3 breaths. Walk the eyes slowly back until your chin is again on or close to your chest. Notice if the sensations in the back of your neck have changed at all since the first time. And while we're looking down, we can interlace our fingers together in front of us. So now you're looking into your 2 palms, and our eyes are going to follow our palms as we take a breath in and start to lift our arms up towards the sky. Eyes follow along, breathing in. Then return your head to center. Exhale and release your arms down to your sides. Beautiful. Let's take one arm up to one ear. And you can decide if the other arm's going to hang down or give you a little bit of support here by pressing on your waist or your hip. Breathe in, get taller. So leave your shoulder down. Get some contact between your arm and your ear. Breathe as you stretch, starting to lengthen this whole side. And then let your body decide how far over would you like to stretch. Where's the right place for you today? And come on back to center. And do the other side, other arm to ear, shoulder low. Breathe in as you start to reach up first. And then as you're ready, take it over. Good. Now, all the time, you're always taking stock of, okay, I tried this pose. How was that for my body? So especially if you're experiencing stress in your low back, if you tried that and you tried going over and that's when you felt some pinchy wrongness, then that's great information for you. You know that you can maybe go up, but maybe you can't go over or whatever it is. Just keep paying attention to your own body. Great. Shake that out. Let's shake out the legs a little bit and widen them. So feet are now slightly wider than hip width apart. Knees are still bent. We do this one sitting, but it's done very well standing. So if you reach one arm forward, dropping the shoulder low, but really reaching. Let those hands and fingers pull you forward. Take your other arm off to the side and let that hand pull you sideways. Drop all your shoulders down. Look past your side fingers and keep your hips pointed forward. So this is a movement in your waist, but your hips should lock in place. The waist takes you for a tiny little backward movement. So we've just gone from where we started to maybe a 1-inch twist towards the back. And let's take 2 big breaths. And again, only if this is right for you and your back. Come on back to center. Now, if it's shoulders that are giving you difficulty and this long extension that's tricky, you're always welcome to hold hand on shoulder as a way of keeping that movement more controlled. So let's do the other side. Need a little bit more room. Other arm reaches forward and let it reach. Other arm reaches to the side and it's really reaching. Shoulders are low. If shoulders are giving you trouble, make that adjustment. Hold hand on shoulder instead. Keep the hips locked in place. Drop your shoulders down. Look past your side fingers. Take a breath. And a little twist towards the back. And bring it back to center and shake all of that out. Excellent. Your choice of now, we're going to bring our legs back to hip width apart. Either you're going to grab onto your arm, using the bottom arm to hold up the top arm and give a pull across, or standing eagle with eagle arms wrapped around each other. Fingers of one hand onto the palm of the other with thumbs pointed at your nose. Let's pull those elbows away from your body. Take a big breath. Now lift your elbows up to shoulder height. And another breath. Bring the elbows back down and let's turn this into our balance pose by crossing one leg over the other. Now the balance part is optional. If this feels a little too risky for your body, you don't have to do it. Or keep your toe on the ground. Don't lift it at all. You're welcome to have that stability throughout. We're going to be sitting a little lower to the ground, bending through the knees, keeping the back fairly straight. And then testing our balance, if you're willing, by lifting the toes off the ground. And you can either hold them off the ground for the full 3 breaths, or let them just come up and down as needed. Good, bring yourself back up. And let that go. So we've really started to open through the middle back with those eagle arms in particular, hopefully getting some opening there. Let's do the other side. So same options, either holding up top arm with bottom arm and pulling, or taking eagle arms the opposite way. Pull the elbows away from the chest and breathe. Lift the elbows to shoulder height. Bring them back down. And same options. You can stay here with both feet flat on the floor, or if you want to balance, you're crossing the other leg over this time. Sitting low, tucking in your chin, and then testing your balance for 3 breaths. Come on back. So again, just make a mental note. What did you learn about your body there? Did that feel good? Did it feel like too much? You need to shift a decision next time. Excellent. Plant your feet back to hip width. Give yourself a big hug. Keep those hips locked just like we were. And again, we're breathing gently into the low back area here. Shoulders are low. Another arm on top. Same thing, just a little gentle mobility there in the low back. Excellent. Grab a sip of water, and then we're going to do a little bit more with the shoulders and upper back, where we do the low back. When you're ready, you're going to take a step forward. It's a small step, not too big a step. And if your body allows for it, you're trying to make all your toes point forward. Some ankles or feet don't allow that, so you put your feet where you need them to be. We're bending the front knee, keeping the back leg fairly straight, and taking the opposite arm as the forward knee, and bending it. And here we've got 2 choices. Choice number 1 is to press on that elbow to really allow some opening there. Choice number 2 is, and I'll show you with the strap. If you've got a strap, you can hang the strap down and then bring, if you're trying to get a little more range of motion here, you can work your arm up. It's that goal of trying to touch your fingers together behind you. But the strap allows you to do that in stages. You can very gradually work your hands toward each other if you wish. Either way, strap, fingers, or pressing on the elbow now for 3 breaths. Now, before we open the arms up, which we're about to do, take a moment here and see how it feels. Keep the legs in this position, but do a bit of a side stretch. So while you're pressing on the elbow or while your fingers are linked behind you, just a little bit of a side stretch one way. Stay anchored through your feet so you're balanced. Then back to tall center, and then a little bit the other way. So we're opening up the space between the ribs. Now open the arms wide. So from elbow to elbow, nice and wide, shoulders are still low, and spread your fingers wide as well. And 3 big breaths. So we're really opening across the chest. Making lots of room for the heart and lungs. And the breaths are big ones. Good. Bring the arms in, change the legs. Step forward with the other one. All toes facing forward if your feet allow that. Front knee bent, back leg straight. Other arm comes up. Press on that elbow or grab your strap or or interlace your fingers behind you. 3 big breaths here. You bend the knee a little bit more, lowering your center of breath. And before we move on, another opportunity to stretch sideways a little bit. So this is just guided by your body. Go really gently into it. Stay balanced. Stay rooted through your feet. See how it feels to bend to the side. And then come back to center and a little bit to the other side. Opening up through each rib cage. Good. Back to center. Open those elbows wide. Shoulders low. Fingers spread. 3 big breaths. Pressing your back heel into the floor. Excellent. Bring the arms in. Shake all of that out. Grab a sip of water and then come to lying on your back. So because we are hoping to open a little bit through all parts of the back, today I'll invite you to lay on your back with your knees up, your feet hip width apart, and your arms in this cactus position with the elbows coming straight out from your shoulders and the hands at a right angle. Sometimes we call that cactus. And as a little side note here, when we talk about goals for the body or yoga poses, if you were in class with me, you'd see that I can touch a little bit of my hand. When I'm in this position, one knuckle touches the ground. The rest of the knuckles kind of struggle. However, it used to be that my hands didn't touch the ground at all. It took me 3 years of putting gentle weights, those soft kind of weights, on top of my wrists and hands to help open up this area of the front pecs that allowed the hands to open fully. So that's an example of a goal that you could set for your body's practice, if that was something that was important. However, it doesn't matter for this pose, it doesn't matter if your hands touch the ground or they don't. We're trying to open here, and now we're getting into the low back by crossing the ankle of one leg onto the thigh of the other. Good. And before we lift the foot off the ground, I invite you to take the leg that's just crossed over, push that knee away from you. Allow that knee to open up. Just notice what happens there through your hip flexor. Take a breath. And now lift the foot that's still on the ground, lift that off, bringing your knees and hips towards you, and let's hold here for 3 big breaths. So we're open across the chest. Hopefully our shoulders are starting to settle towards the ground. And we're feeling things, maybe in your hips, maybe your glutes, maybe your legs, your thighs, hamstring. And let's change. Other side. Cross the other leg over. And with that leg that's just crossed over, push that knee away from you. Just notice what sensations arise in the body. And then lift the foot off the ground. Does this side feel the same or different from the first side during your 3 breaths? Good. Uncross the legs. Open your arms long now, so they're now straight from the shoulders on out along the floor. And we're going to do a couple of knee drops today to start to open up through the back. This first one is the simplest one. So your feet should be hip width apart. Your knees should be hip width apart. And we're simply sending the knees over to one side. Just dropping them down. It's a gentler move than we usually do with the knees in at the chest. To begin, we'll get there. Just notice, what do you feel? What sensations do you get as we start to do this first twisting pose? Taking 3 breaths here. And paying attention to the body. Noticing if any parts are starting to settle. And let's take those same legs back up to center and then over to the other side. And same thing, just notice. How do you feel during your 3 breaths? Good. Bring those knees back to center. And now we'll do the one that we've done a little more frequently, bringing these into the chest. However, if this feels like too much for your back or your body in any way, go back to this one we just did with the feet on the ground and then the knees flop. So your choice, knees into the chest, flop them over, or the same pose that we just did. 3 big breaths. Notice how we've changed what we're feeling in the body. Bring the knees back into center and over to the other side. Three big breaths. Really staying mindful. Minute or moment by moment, what do you notice? Good. Bring that back to center. Excellent. Feet back down, knees stay up, and bring your arms now alongside the body. We're going to go into a couple of our bridge poses. Now, bridge is a core strengthener, so it's great for us. It engages so many parts of the body. It is a wonderful strength building, core strengthening, back supporting type of pose. However, if your back is injured or if you're really struggling with your low back right now, bridge will likely be too much. And so I'll give you the building blocks for it and you decide how much you can engage in. First, spread your toes wide apart and press your big toes especially into your mat or the floor. Really feel those big toes pressing as your anchor. Keep those knees hip width apart. So don't let them spread open. Don't let them come together. Keep them hip width. Contract your core. So squeeze your kegel internally. Pull your low abdominal muscles towards your spine. You're really squeezing this whole core area. And then while squeezing the big toes to the floor, lift your tailbone up. Now, those of you struggling in the low back, maybe you can just do this. Maybe this is great. Or maybe this is too much and you do something else. If you're okay, the back is feeling fine, then let's take the next vertebra up. So we're lifting one vertebra at a time up off the ground as we start to get our hips higher and higher into the pose. I've got my palms turned down. You can do it either way with the palms, but turning the palms down gives you that little bit of extra support of the hands pressing into the mat. And we want to feel like we've got a bit of pressure on the top of the shoulders, on the back of the neck. We want the back of the neck to feel long with the chin coming close to the chest. And then we're going to reverse it. Keep those big toes anchored, keep your core strong, and go down one vertebra at a time. So we're really slowing this one down today for lots of control. Trying to articulate the spine, trying to feel each and every vertebra. Once you get down, have a little rest. If your body has really worked hard and you want to release it, you might feel like bringing your knees into your chest and just rocking side to side. And when you're ready, let's do it again. So reposition the body, press the toes, contract the core, lift the tailbone, and keep going, one vertebra at a time. Good. So now we're going to imagine, pardon me, that we have a block positioned between our two knees, and that our goal is to squeeze the block between our knees. And we're going to do 20 little short pulses. Pulse, 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 squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So the knees aren't touching each other. We're imagining that block between them and that we're squeezing that block. All while keeping our hips up if possible. Good, that's about 20. One vertebra at a time. Now slowly, with control, come down. And once you're down again, do what you need to release your body. Maybe it's hugging the knees in, maybe it's stretching the body long out. Good, well done. So anytime that our low backs give us trouble, there's usually a connection to also some tightness in the glutes and the hamstrings. So let's now bring one knee in toward the chest to get into the hamstrings. Interlace your fingers around the back of that leg and start to press your heel up towards the sky. Now, depending on your back, your leg, your flexibility, you'll have to decide whether you're able to straighten that leg or whether you do need to keep a bit of a bend in it. So work where's right for you. We're attempting to feel some lengthening through the back of the leg. That might mean flexing the foot more. It might mean pressing the heel more towards the ceiling. Or that might be too intense, and instead you want to press the leg a little bit more towards the other wall. We've sometimes done this one with the strap. When we pull the strap around the leg, that gives you a little bit more range of motion if you use the strap. And breathing. This is the safest way to do a hamstring stretch because our backs are fully supported by the floor. So there's many types of hamstring stretches, but if your low back is giving you trouble, this is the safest, most supported one. Bring that leg in, let's do the other side. Interlace the fingers around the back of the hamstring and start to straighten it. With a heel press, finding, can your leg be straight? Press your heel towards the sky. What do you notice about the sensation? Can you breathe through it? And sometimes for variation, we'll point the toes here and then reflex the foot. And that can also get you a little bit more deeply into the back of the leg. Excellent. Bring that in, hug both knees into your chest. Rock gently side to side, that low back massage. Good. Next, I invite you to turn over. And we'll come to hands and knees, but then we'll come to lying down next. So we're starting to get into the mid back now. Once we're at hands and knees, the first thing we're going to check is our wrists. I'm sure some of you have been on a computer a little bit more this week like I have, and so let's stretch the wrist a little bit by turning fingers towards the knees. Now, if this is far too intense, so you can do this with the fingers close to the knees and sitting back onto your heels, or you can do it from hands and knees position, which is what I'm doing today. If that's still too intense for your wrists, you know the alternate is to sit anywhere you're comfortable and use one hand against the palm of the other to get the stretch. So find what'll work for you and breathe. A little bit on the back of the hands, very gently. Fingers are still pointed towards your knees, and we're not putting much weight, just a little bit of gentle pressure on the back of the hands to stretch. Good. Now shake those out. Now, if by doing that, you've discovered that your wrists aren't great today, maybe you're feeling a bit weak, then make a fist shape instead when we're in hands and knees position. And let's take a moment. So we've got a flat back. We want to feel like we're lifting our chests up a little bit so that we're broadening across the upper back, across the shoulders. Feel nice and wide there. Full breaths. And then from here, let's thread the needle. Let's take one hand and aim it between the other hand and knee. It's going to lengthen along the floor, reaching, reaching, reaching until you're rested down on your shoulder, resting your head on the side of your head, a little bit on your face. If you've got one elbow up high in the sky, you can just bring it down. Make sure both arms are comfortable. And now let's take a big breath into the middle back. A breath into the upper back. Into the shoulders. And into the neck. Push yourself back up. Good, and let's do the other side. So again, take a moment with your flat back to be in good positioning here. Lifting your chest, feeling broad across the shoulders and the upper back. And then take the other hand and reach in between hand and knee, lengthening that hand along the floor until you're rested down on that shoulder. And just as we did, you're taking 4 big breaths. Good. Bring yourself back up. And lay on your mat or on the floor, fully outstretched now. We're placing our hands underneath our shoulders and resting the weight of the head on the chin. And I invite you to really rock out your hips. We're trying to let go of everything in the core. So this is the one pose where you don't have to use your core, and sometimes we have to cue ourselves to really let go. So rock the hips, let go. And then let yourself just be floppy there right on the ground. We are going to use the strength of the hands and the arms. We're going to keep the elbows tucked in. Start with the head resting on the chin. Use the strength of your arms to push your chin and chest up off the ground, not high, just a little bit. And then back down. We're doing this 6 times, hands and arms. Bring you up, making sure the core is not engaged. Our bellies stay connected to the floor. And we want to start to feel a lengthening through the low back. Now this is, of course, unless this doesn't feel right for you. Okay, 6 times while breathing. Then touch your chin, touch your forehead, and rest your arms beside you. Rest on each cheek. Rock those hips again. Make sure we didn't involve them. And breathe. So I'm going to offer a challenge pose for those who are working on core strengthening, both core and arms. We're going to do a plank variation. If you feel like, no, that's not you today, then you can get ready for Shavasana, which comes next, or you can do any other pose that you've been wanting to work on. So if you are taking planks with me, then you're positioning yourself hands and knees first with the fingers spread wide, or coming onto fists if you know that you need that support. And deciding if you want full plank today, or maybe a combination. Maybe you start out in full plank, and then if that starts to feel like a little too much, you know that you can bend the knees back down to help you. Then we're going to do some stepping. So from our plank, we're bringing knee towards nose, and then stepping back to full plank. Other knee towards nose, stepping back to full plank. That's the move. We're going to keep it up for about a minute. Lots of breath to support you. Now this can also be done, so keep going if you're into it. If you're looking for a variation, we have done something similar when we're in hands and knees. So you might remember that we've sometimes from hands and knees brought a knee toward nose, then stretched the straight leg skyward, knee to nose, and change. That's a good alternate pose if you need just a little extra support. This one should be building some heat. If you're doing the full pose of it, it should start to feel like, yeah, we're asking quite a bit of the body. Let's do 3 more. And bring the knees down if they're not already. Stretch yourself back into pose of child with your arms long in front of you. 3 breaths here. Good. Round yourself up out of that And let's get ready for Shavasana. Either lying fully outstretched, comfortable as you can, or seated if you prefer. Feel free to grab water, especially if you did that last intense one. And we are about to be still for a few minutes. So add any layers as well that you'd like to have. So finding your way to whatever pose you've chosen here for Shavasana. Allowing the body to let go. That beautiful feeling when you've done something quite challenging and then you get to the rest afterwards. And there is lots of good in that couple of moments, so don't miss them. Savor them. Is there anything that you can do to make yourself even more comfortable here? Ensure that your spine feels long, whatever position you've chosen. The back of the neck feels long, chin tucked in a little bit. Legs and arms starting to feel a bit heavy. But mind feeling clear and light. Sometimes we've worked with the imagery of imagining that you've tied like a blindfold, but a band across your eyes. You've brought perhaps a dark cloth, any of your favorite types of material, something soft, something comfortable across your eyes, a little bit across the forehead. If you had a band across your eyes and forehead, with your eyes closed if you're comfortable, bring your attention there. Looking behind your closed eyelids, this area of the third eye that we've worked with. I invite you to just keep your attention there as you take a few breaths. Just be there. Is there anything that you notice? If you notice nothing, fantastic. You get to be in nothingness. How beautiful is that? If you notice something, color or shape, shadow, also how wonderful. Something to hold your attention just there for a moment. We're still breathing comfortably. So our attention is at that band across the eyes. We're also aware of the breath in and the slow breath out. and how those two, the breath in and the breath out, work together every day, mostly without us noticing. Here we have the opportunity to observe that concert of the breath in and the breath out. And as you continue to breathe, you continue to hold your attention at the area of the third eye, that band across your eyes. I invite you to pose the intention question to yourself. How would I like to feel at the end of a few months? What shifts am I looking for in my life? What is my intention? And now, let's take 3 deeper breaths. Start to move a little bit, fingers and toes. If you're lying down, turn onto your side and rest there for one breath. And then together, we're going to get ourselves to standing, but we're going to do it first by coming to hands and knees. Curling the toes so that we can take a very brief downward dog and walk ourselves towards standing. So if you're willing, your fingers are spread, your toes are curled to take weight. Let's push ourselves into a brief downward dog, hips high for a moment. And then when you're ready, starting to walk your toes towards your fingers. And hanging there in a forward release for a couple of breaths. So you might hold each hand at the elbow. Just notice how the low back is doing when you're hanging here. And of course, if that's not right for you, then you just come to standing any way that works for you.
Contract your core, keep your knees bent, and slowly rise. Keeping the back rounded as you rise. Your head is the last part of you to float forward. Which puts us into standing position for breath of joy. So reminding you that there are a wide range of breath of joy options. The smallest one, most control, especially if your low back is tricky, is to do just a tiny little finger. Inhale, sip of air in, off to the side, sip of air in, slightly more, sip of air in, forward, and then ha. The smallest amount of maybe bending chin towards chest, whatever you're able to do. You can do a moderate version. Ha. Or you can do the full version if the low back especially is feeling well. Make sure you make lots of noise on the ha out. Ha ha. Ha ha. Any pace. Ha! 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 3 more. Ha! Ha! Last one. Ha! Come to standing and just feel the energy moving around your body. Close your eyes if you feel stable and balanced. Notice what you experienced in your body, making mental note of, yep, I chose the right amount, or maybe overdid it a little bit, I'm gonna do less next time. And from here, let's take the thumb in your hand, inhale and raise those arms. 2 easy breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Hands together, good friction there, 2 breaths. Hands behind or in front of the neck. Full extension as you breathe in. Open the hands off to the side as you breathe out. But bring the hands together at the bottom until they come together at the heart for a last breath. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.